Napa Valley. It's the Bordeaux of the New World and much more. This strip of land is just 30 miles long and only a few miles wide. Sitting north of San Pablo Bay that brings the marine influence to the lower part of the valley is bordered by the Mayacama Mountains to the west that separate it from Sonoma and the Vaca Mountains to the east. Within this 30-mile stretch, that is the overarching Napa Valley AVA, you will find 16 nested AVAs. As you drive up Route 29, vineyards stretch out along both sides of the road. These valley floor appellations are home to some of the most famous names in Napa. Here, Cab is king. South of the city of Napa, you find cooler climate appellations that are close to San Pablo Bay. These appellations benefit from the cool morning fog. Here, you find Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. In addition, there are vineyards that climb up the foothills into both the Mayacama and Vaca Mountains. These higher elevation appellations can be cooler due to their altitude. When you think of Napa Valley wines, you might think of high-end or even cult Cabernet Sauvignon and perhaps fancy hotels and restaurants. Yes, those are there, but really, Route 29 is mostly a two-lane road driving through farm country that happens to have vineyards. We stayed near the city of Napa, which 10 years ago was not really a place people stopped. The city has revitalized the riverfront and has a section of restaurants, hotels, and spas to draw people in. Morimoto has a restaurant here. In addition, there are great local restaurants just a few blocks away. We enjoyed a casual noodle dinner at Napa Noodles and Poke Bar. The duck soup was phenomenal, and Michael enjoyed the pancit. As you drive north into Napa Valley, take in the iconic tasting rooms, Robert Mondavi, Opus One, and Gurgitch Hills. Yountville provides an opportunity to stroll. We typically like to go early in the day to catch the fresh baked pastries at Bouchon Bakery and stroll to the French Laundry Gardens. Art and sculpture dress this small town, and it is filled with high-end luxury. Further north, you come to St. Helena, whose main street is Route 29. On the southern end of this quaint town, you find Gott's Roadside, which is a must-stop for both vacationers and locals. At the roadside, you order at the counter and find a spot outside to eat, either out front or on the picnic tables out back. On the day we visited, fried cauliflower was on the menu as a side. I enjoyed the ahi burger, and Michael had the bacon cheeseburger. As you continue heading north, the mountains get closer and greener, and you move into Calistoga. But wait, we haven't really discussed wine yet. Our stop in Napa was just north of the city of Calistoga, where we would blend wine and horses. Robert from the tasting room gave us a tour of the winery and the grounds.
Start a little bit backwards from Tampa Bay, but this ranch was developed back in 2001. The original owner, she bought this property, a 22-acre property in 2000, and had this ranch designed, built for her. This was her private horse ranch. Howard Backham was the architect, same gentleman who did the Solage Resort here in Calistoga. And what she told him is she wanted a Kentucky-style ranch. And so this is what he designed and had built for her. She lived in St. Helena, so she'd come up here and ride her horses and friends' horses. She did name it the Sundance Ranch, and we still use that name today. We are Tampa Bay Vineyards at the Sundance Ranch. Depending on which part of the story you want to is believable, or obviously Sundance reference to Robert Redford, a part-time Calistoga native who she was a big fan of. And so she did have a horse named Sundance, so I think it was named after the horse, but again, depending on the story you want to hear. So also built on this property, along with the pastures, the outdoor arena, was a 17,000 square foot covered riding arena. And it was that riding arena that eventually became our production facility. That was really the key to bringing Tampa Bay to this property, was to take this existing roof structure and build what is now a custom crushed wine production facility. So Tampa Bay's been in business since 2002, been making our wine here on this site since 2012. So Tampa Bay wine, 1819 vintage, about 8,500 cases. Last year, we had 22 other clients, 22 other wineries that brought their fruit here for processing, fermentation, and eventually bottling. It's all done here. The only thing that we don't do on this property is grow the fruit.
Oh.
But from harvest all the way through bottling. It's all done here. So when this facility was built, again, back in 2012, 36 fermentation tanks. The smallest ones here in front, about 850 gallons, and then work all the way around to about 3,200 gallons in the middle. And then last year, because we added 5 more clients last year to get to 22, we added 5 more fermentation tanks, 1,000 gallons each. So now 41 fermentation tanks that are being used. And that way, with all these clients, all this fruit coming in throughout harvest, we're really able to spread out at the tank space. So this is what I affectionately refer to as our wine arena. So those who have their wine caves, we obviously don't have that. So the old arena, now our wine arena. But yeah, so you'll see all the different barrels, a lot of the different, labels, all of our different clients. Right. So French oak, that's our preference. So we've got these 6 little minis here, and there's a mini number 7 in the other pasture with his buddy Cody. And these are all horses that the Rombauer family has out here. Oh, right. It's very big into horse rescue, the family is. So we have about a dozen of their rescue horses here on property, along with the horses, the Tampa Bay horses. Gotcha. So Magie Noir here, our Frisian, we've had on property about a year and a half now. When Tampa Bay bought this property, one of the horses on property, another Frisian, Merlin, obviously a big part of of Tampa Bay and everything. Unfortunately, he passed 2 Octobers ago at the age of 25. Wow. And thus led Barry to come to the conclusion we needed another Frisian on property. So found Magie here in Amsterdam and brought him out here. And then another Mustang here in the next section is Marvin, a friend of the family, actually belongs to Stephanie Brown. Hi Looks there. Like Rocket is here to say hello Rocket. As well.
You're a cat. Yes. I will stand just out of reach. We were definite cat people.
So yeah, we have 2 cats on property as well. Rocket's 3, Comet is 2, gotcha. both black. Zoe and Stella, a couple of our former competitors. Zoe is 18. I think Stella is 17.
The tasting room itself is the 16-stall barn and clubhouse designed by architect Howard Backen. It was stunning in the morning light as we sat to taste, looking across the courtyard garden to the stalls where several horses were enjoying some shade. They set us up with their very popular cookie and wine pairing tasting. Each wine in the flight was paired with a shortbread cookie.
Starting off with our Sauvignon Blanc. This is a 2020 Sauvignon Blanc, so one of the few wines we were able to make in 2020. Unfortunately. Luckily, we were able to make some. Again, purchased fruit from a vineyard in Pope Valley. So not too far from here, near the town, near Angwin. Up in the hills there, really rocky soil, volcanic soil, on a fault line, so a lot of lateral movement. So really producing some really good Sauvignon Blanc. And again, the stainless steel fermentation and neutral oak. Gotcha. So really nice, crisp. Great way to kind of start things out. And again, with the cookie pairing, so think wine, cookie, wine. So what you can do is take a couple of sips of that Sauvignon Blanc, then follow that up with a bite of the cookie, some more wine, just to kind of see how the spices or the salt and the cookie bring out a little different flavoring in the wine. So excellent. It is a fun way to go. Yeah. Cookie pairing started when we had our little tasting room in St. Helena. And Jennifer, Barry's wife, was approached by one of the local bakeries about maybe doing something. Weren't really interested in selling product, but she told if you can come up with something that you can pair with our wines, we'll include it in the tasting. And so they did, and that kind of took off from there and become really popular. And when Tampa Bay was telling everybody that we were leaving St. Helena and coming up to this property, that was the number one question: are you still going to do the cookie pairing? So it's definitely been a part of Tampa Bay history and a fun way to go through things. The last 2.5 years now, Brasswood Bakery has been making them for us. So I mentioned we've been making our wine on this property since 2012. Barry established Tampa Bay in 2002. So Barry, a Bay Area guy himself, born and raised, had an 18-year career living in Silicon Valley. So So 1980 is when he went to work for Apple Computer. Had 14 years at Apple. It was during his time at Apple that he was introduced to what's called endurance horse racing. So there were some gentlemen on Barry's marketing team that were very involved in these long distance cross country horse races. And Barry's initial thought was, you're crazy. You know, spending anywhere from 6 to 8 hours on a Saturday on a horse just didn't really make a lot of sense to him. But they finally convinced him to crew for them one weekend. So he goes out, sees what it's all about, and really kind of gravitated to the sport. The strategy involved, working so close with the horses and knowing your competition, it really kind of caught his attention. And so 1998 is when he decided that 18 years in the Silicon Valley was a good career for him. Wanted to get more involved in these long distance races and loved Napa Valley. Knew this is where he wanted to be. So looking for property to kind of reestablish himself up here is when the opportunity to buy our vineyard in Yountville came about. Again, a 60-acre property, planted in the late 70s, already really well-established vines on the property. Barry saw this as a great investment opportunity, just to be a grower. Wasn't looking to make wine, certainly not a winemaker himself, but growing the fruit in Napa Valley has some benefits to it. And really what it did is gave him a lot of time to get involved in these long-distance races. So soon after purchasing the vineyard, he did find a little property in Oakville that he moved up here to with 2 Arabian horses that he trained and got involved in these long distance races. And that's really how Barry spent his first couple of years here in Napa Valley, was just a grower, but a very avid, becoming quite an accomplished horse racer with his 2 Arabian horses. So what we are growing on our property in Yountville is the 2 different Chardonnays, which I'm gonna pour one for you next. And then all your Bordeaux. So Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, and Malbec. It's all growing on our property. So, like I said, purchasing the Sauvignon Blanc, purchasing the Pinot Noir, and purchasing fruit for a rosé that we do as well.
Gotcha. Rosé, what is your rosé?
It's a GSM.
A GSM rosé, lovely.
60% Syrah.
Gotcha. So then you're dipping into 3 of those universes, a little Bordeaux, a little Burgundy, and a little Rhone.
Yep.
That's nice.
The French stallion cookie with savory herbe de Provence with hibiscus sea salt pairs with their Sauvignon Blanc.
So what I actually pulled out, not the Merlot that's on the tasting sheet.
Oh.
This is our 2019 Merlot, and this is 100% Merlot. As we like to say, this is Merlot as it should be. Again, been making Merlot for 20 years now. One of the first wines Barry made was the Merlot, and so yeah, one of the ones we're really proud of.
Excellent.
There we go.
Perfect. And this is from the Dochevaux?
This is all Yountville fruit.
That's delicious. And smoked
bacon. I guess I should kind of round out our stories then. I haven't, we started with talking about the winery and everything. So I mentioned 300 case production in 2002, gradually built that to 4,000 cases in 2010. 2010, the same year that Thomas Brown was named the Napa Valley Winemaker of the Year. So certainly a lot's happened in 8 years. Barry's wife Jennifer is now in the picture as well, a very accomplished rider herself. So certainly there's a few more horses in the family on that property down in Oakville. At 4,000 case production, we've pretty much gone as far as we can go, not having our own production facility. And Thomas certainly is now picking up more clients. So we kind of needed to reverse that role, go from using a custom crush to having our own custom crush, grow our production and make wine for other wineries that Thomas is starting to work for. And so this is when Barry starts looking for property to do just that, to acquire, to build a production facility. And looking for property, this ranch, the Sundance Ranch, was put on the market by the estate of the original owner in 2011 after she had passed away. Economy of 2011, there wasn't a lot of interest in this property at the time, so it sat for a while, but Barry eventually finds out that this ranch is here and it's on the market. So they come up and take a look at the property, and that's when everything just kind of fell together for the family to have the horses here. As I mentioned, we had a little tasting room in St. Helena. Certainly the way this was all designed with this courtyard, great spot for what we're doing right now. And as we talked about, the original arena, that riding arena, as you saw, perfect structure to develop into a custom crush facility. And that's how it all kind of came together. So Barry Tampa Bay bought this ranch in 2012, converted that arena into a production facility, and that's when we started making all of our wine here. They were able to get it done in time for the 2012 harvest, and I touched base. Our 18 and 19 case production, about 8,500 cases.
Gotcha.
So that's how it all came full circle.
Right. So growing a bit, but you're still not giant. I mean, with that kind of production.
Not
Still
giant,
very-
certainly not looking to be giant.
Right.
Under 10,000. Barry is very comfortable under 10,000 cases because he feels once you hit that 10,000, you kind of get a little bigger. You see what's going on. It's a very small production and want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
So, all right. So our Bordeaux style blend here, we refer to as our Ravicano. Ravicano is actually, it's a color pattern of an Arabian horse. So, because I tell people come here, I've never had Ravicano. Well, you probably have, but it's heritage.
Yeah.
It's our word for this blend. So it's always kind of fun with that. But again, all of our Yachtville fruit. The 19 vintage is 4 of the 5. So it's always predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon, but over the years it's been as low as 58% Cab, as high as 75% Cab. So it definitely varies from year to year. Merlot, usually the secondary one. Derek, our winemaker now, as you had our Merlot, wants to kind of get more Merlot into the Ravicano because it is such a great varietal for us. So the 19 vintage is 71% Cabernet Sauvignon, 20% Merlot, with 7% Cabernet Franc and 2% Petit Verdot.
And you do grow Malbec too on your
We do grow Malbec,
It
yes.
just was not in the blend.
Was not into the 19 blend. It was in the 18 blend, but wasn't in the 19.
Gotcha. Any thoughts? I don't know how your planting is, what your percentages are vineyard-wise.
Derek would like to plant more Malbec. That is something
Okay.
that he's been working on for next spring, is to get more Malbec on our property. We have room for it, and he'd like to do more.
Gotcha.
So,
As far as the blocks that you've got, is the acreage mostly to Cabernet?
yes.
So that's
Yeah.
why you tend to that left bank style.
Correct. So obviously, I can't let you leave without a taste of Oakville.
Ah, yes.
I mean, come on.
Yes, wonderful.
I can't let you go without the Oakville Cab. So, again, this is the 3-acre vineyard on Barry's home property there, also on the Napa River. They were 2-year-old vines when he planted them back in 2000. And so not a very different, but that's certainly a different cab from our Yachtville Cab. What the similarity is, this is again 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. There we go.
And then this is part of your signature collection.
Yes. This is actually officially available in May. So in a couple of weeks. It's going out with our club. Shipments are being shipped next week. So a lot of our club members are getting this in their shipment. And then it's kind of the official release is May. So.
Owner Barry Waite had been in a meeting when we arrived, and we were lucky enough to catch him before we left. He sat with us to tell us a bit more about what brought him here to create Tamber Bay and what he loves the most about it.
I've been doing this for 23 years.
There you go.
I came to Napa as an old friend, so to speak, because I've been coming here since 1959. My parents used to vacation here. I was born in San Francisco, raised in the Bay Area. So they'd come up here, and a week turned into 2 weeks, turned into a month. So my entire childhood this was my summer playland. And after about a 22-year corporate career, specifically in technology, I decided lifestyle was the most important thing in my life, as I think it would be for almost anybody. I mean, we all challenge ourselves just on vacations to go after that ultimate lifestyle. And so I chose wine country, and then not soon after chose Napa Valley for now an obvious reason. It was my comfort place. So I came up here and in love of wine, was able to buy a couple pieces of property. Thought of this originally as a hobby, a professional hobby as it is. But I'm one to now confess my professional hobby went awry. And about 2007, I realized I'm actually working full time as an individual, and desires to make it real. And so I literally wrote a business plan, dreamt what it could be, had lots of influences from people, and here we are, 2022. Literally 23 years later, exercised that business plan pretty well. So I'm very happy with where we are, obviously. So that's how I got into the business. Now I'm kind of a mad scientist too, because I love the product marketing side of wine.
Okay.
Right? So there's all kinds of things to think about how you're in it. So I am not a winemaker. I'm not the chemist, though I'm getting pretty deep on a lot of that. And I can go toe-to-toe with most people anymore. But what I learned also in my corporate career is certainly to hire people that are better than you, and that's how you will be successful. So I've got Derek Flegel, winemaker, and my original one, Thomas Brown, and a staff that is fantastic that carries us all the way, right? But my product marketing notion is what I did in high tech in the early days. And look, at product marketing people like to make stuff. I like to work with the engineers, and in this case, winemakers. I like to think about what the market is thinking about and where we fit and things of that nature. And that's exciting to me. Now, dangerous in the wine business, if you find a new vineyard, some people will just say that and says, let's just put that into one of our other products. Not me. I'm going to say that vineyard has a story. That vineyard has a terroir that is different from across the street or much other places. So I've gone from 3 wines to 18. I was constantly challenging my wine friends here, employees, that I might make another here or there. I'm challenged by a lot of people to make a champagne someday, a late harvest wine. Why not? Right now we're still concentrating on our French varietals, which is again an essence of my business plan. So that's a bit of the Tampa Bay story.
While the valley is just 30 miles long, that does not mean you should try to experience it all in one day. Take the time to explore the AVAs and find the nuances. Then take the scenic route north through more spectacular scenery and vineyards to Sonoma. Our next episode takes us to southern Oregon and into the Rogue and Applegate valleys.
So we're like the transitional point between that California climate and the Willamette Valley climate. So it's I think that's an interesting place to make wine in transitional zones because you have really unusual weather patterns and things like that here. So it's a totally different ripening cycle. We'll go into that later. But we have 100 acres here, so 50 acres in vines. The rest are in apple trees and hay and livestock and everything. We'll drive around and see that. So, but we're redeveloping everything because there was a lot of disease in the vines. So we replanted everything. So I'm 2/3 of the way in right now. This is 2 years old right now. Well, the one you came in there was just planted about a month ago.
Wow.
So we're doing about 10 acres a year. So it's a big project.
Here, we will visit Troon Vineyard and learn about biodynamic and regenerative agriculture. As always, remember to take the scenic route.